Her story deals with a subculture of heavy metal music that some feel is sending a dangerous message to your kids.
The forces of evil on the dark side of devil right.
And I want to talk tonight about the devil and demons and witches and wizards.
And we just mix it up with hardcore and aggression and come out with something we think's an original sound.
Loud, fast, heavy, you know.
Well, what do you got?
What do you got?
You're listening to Riff Worship, the podcast that attempts to answer the age-old question, what makes a riff? Talking about riffs, sometimes album featuring riffs, sometimes with people who love good riffs, make good riffs. I'm one of your hosts, Austin Paulson. With me, as always, is my dear, dear friend, Justin Swindle. How are you?
Well, you see, Austin.
Shut up. All this talking. We got a special guest today. This has been a long time coming. I am so excited to have our just wonderful guest who is a vocalist, lyricist, bassist, barber. You might know her from some projects like The Armed, King Woman, Super Unison, Punch. I am, of course, talking about Meghan O'Neil. How are you, Meghan?
I'm good. How are you? What an intro. That was nice. Thank you. I'm like, I am a lyricist. Yeah.
Yeah. A jack of all trades. We love it.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Of course. How are you? I know like a handful of weeks ago at this point, you just played like a pretty nice, I'm sure, very intimate Valentine's Day show in LA with King Woman.
Yeah, it was great. I don't think it was intimate. It was like 700 people. It was crazy. It was awesome. Yeah, we played Mexico City, and then 2 days later we played LA, and they were really great shows. Really great. Yeah, like special, where I was like, holy shit, this is my life. This is amazing. So very grateful to Chris for having me.
Yeah, I was curious. Like, I mean, full transparency, I saw you had posted the other day that, and we were going to ask you about this, but it answered one of my questions. Like, how long had you known Chris?
Oh yeah.
Where did you meet? Was it through Jack Shirley? Like, I know he'd recorded a bunch of Whir records. Like, how did you actually like get linked up with Chris?
Yeah, I was working at Timeless Coffee for years, which is like a vegan coffee shop in Oakland. And I saw her in there, and I recognized her from some photos with a mutual friend. And I was just like, hey, I think you know my friend Emma, like from the UK, was just here, blah, blah, blah. And we started talking, and she immediately goes, we got to play shows together. And I just was always struck by that like, that's why I said, like, she has supported me since the second I met her, you know? And she's just always like been a really good friend to me. And then, you know, now taking me all over the world with her. And two, when the Armed stuff was happening, she was the one that connected us. And the Armed has kind of been like, oh, is Chris going to be mad? We're like stealing you. And I'm like, no, she's all about it. She was the one that was like, you're going to be in that band. And I was like, no, I'm not. And so she's like one of my biggest supporters, like probably her, like my husband and like my family, my biggest cheerleaders. Like, so yeah, just kind of like I was brave enough to be like, not brave because she's not scary, but like just to be like, hey, I think I know you. So, and that started it. And this was our second time to Mexico together, actually, because Super Unison and Miserable went like 8 years ago. And that really like bonded us because that was like our most time we'd spent together and stuff. I feel like we really got to know each other on that trip. So
That is, talking to people that you don't know in public is tough. There are people that I've met before that I see in public, and I'm just like, I cannot talk to you.
Honestly, I was so shy growing up. Like, I would turn red if anyone talked to me, and I would just like had a really hard time. And when Punch started, I was like 23, and I was still so shy. And I would play with my back to the audience and like hide in the van between, like, when other bands were playing. I was just like so scared, and like just years of doing that. Like I think I owe a lot of my personality to being in bands, for sure. Like I always like wanted friendship. Like I always thought I was an introvert, but I'm like, oh, I'm like kind of an extrovert with social anxiety. So it's like I need people. I just am like anxious about it sometimes. So yeah, the Meghan of not being in bands would never be like, hey, I think we know each other. But you know, that's helped me a lot, like with confidence and just socialization.
I mean, you wouldn't know it. I mean, I just, you know, we're talking now. I mean, and even like all the shows that you've been playing. And I mean, I would imagine even your job, like you're constantly having to talk to people all day.
Oh, yeah, all day.
Whether good or bad, you know, I'm sure. But
I thought I was an introvert until COVID. literally until like 5 years ago. And then I saw my husband, who's actually an introvert, like he was fine. He's like, this is nice. I get to stay home. And I'm like, oh, like I need people on it, and I was like, oh, maybe all my friends have been right all these years. It's like, I'm just like a shy extrovert. So, but I do need to recharge alone still, but I do need people and stuff. So,
well, maybe this is a good opportunity to go back to the beginning. You're from the Bay Area originally,
yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
And whereabouts in the Bay did you grow up?
I was born in the city, but I grew up in Walnut Creek, which is like 30 minutes east, like kind of like the suburbs. And then, yeah, I went to school in SF, so I lived there for like 12 years. And then I've been in Oakland for about 11. But yeah, my younger brother, Aaron O'Neil, he is like an amazing drummer. I mean, he been in bands since middle school. I mean, again, I didn't start my first band until 23, but he's a drummer. And like I say, drummers are born, they're just banging on stuff from the get. But he was always in bands. And like, so then I started like going to Gilman with him and other friends and stuff. And yeah, so he's like a big influence. He's a big reason why I am like the person I am, like getting me into punk and hardcore and stuff. Like he would make mixtapes that we would play in our parents' minivan. And when he was, because we're, old, and when you tape stuff, you're actually taping it. And so he would turn the volume down on the like curse words so that we could play them in the van. He would self-edit these like tapes of like, we were into alternative first. And then hardcore and stuff. But yeah, he would self-edit these tapes. I still think I have some, and we would draw the labels and stuff for them and everything. So yeah, he's a big influence of like me hearing hardcore for the first time and like going to Gilman to see him. His like it wasn't his first band, but his first one that people know is like For the Crown. That's probably more a Bay thing, but Lights Out and stuff like that. And then Devotion and stuff later. But he's probably toured and played more than me even.
Oh, wow. So,
yeah. Yeah, we love it because sometimes it's like, are you Aaron's sister? And then that was for years, like, because and then it started like, wait, are you Megan's brother? We love it. We're like, dude, someone asked if I knew you. And we're like, yeah.
So. You mentioned earlier, your parents probably being your biggest supporter. And then you just mentioned also the minivan, which I think just based on our conversation, prior when we did our episode, you did your first tour in that minivan as well.
Yeah. This was a later minivan. The first Punch tour in 2000, like I think it was like summer 2007, was in their like 98 or earlier Chevy Astro van, and there was 5 of us in the band and 2 friends, and so we had 7 people in a full backline in an Astro. Don't ask me how, but the middle seat, someone had to get in, and then you'd put the bass drum in, and then someone else would get in. And so when we'd stop for gas, it'd be like, hey, let me out. Like you would be trapped. And 2, I think we were told, I don't know if we told them we went into Mexico or not. We went to Tijuana, and like the side mirror got knocked off in the middle of the night. Like we were all asleep and we were like, what's that noise? And then in the morning, like the side mirror's gone. So my parents they're really supportive. I mean, because my brother's been playing shows since, again, middle school. So way before he had his license. He is the drummer. He has the most shit. So they would drive him to stuff. And I mean, they're like, only Bay Area people will get this, but there was a venue for years called Burnt Ramen, which is just like the shittiest venue. I mean, it's great, but it's just like shitty and dirty and in a bad neighborhood. And it's just like, you go, but you're like, wow, this is a whole thing. And so when people are like, oh, are your parents supportive? I just say, my mom's been to Burnt Ramen. Like, that's all you need to know. And then 2, on this King Woman Mexico trip, my dad came.
Oh, cool.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, right? He's 73. He was in a walking boot, and we're just like fucking. But he came out with me after the show till 2:30 in the morning. Like he went to band dinner. He hung out with everybody for like 5 days. So yeah, they met in working at a record store, in the late 70s. So I
was gonna ask if they were musical people. So I'd have to imagine, they probably took you to like your first show or got you your first record.
Definitely, they have a huge record collection. There's a lot of songs that make me think of like being young and dancing around our house. And my dad makes music too, like kind of singer-songwritery stuff. And he has a business card for his band. And like when we were in Mexico with like a group of people on the second night, I hear someone go, Megan, and I turned around. It's like a friend of Chris's who was with us, and he's just has his arm around my dad holding a business card. He's just like handing it out to people. And he plays, you know, like farmers markets and stuff, and he loves joking. Like there was a summer recently where it was like the same summer that King Woman we went to Australia and played this crazy fest, Dark Mofo in Tasmania, and that same summer my brother played at Red Rocks.
Oh, wow.
And my brother's so my dad is like, you know, and he's playing the farmers market, and he's just like, we're all gigging. Isn't this great?
That's amazing.
Did your folks used to go to punch shows? It seems very violent.
They've been to punch shows. Yeah, my dad always does an impression of me. I guess there was one they came to at Gilman where someone was selling vegan cupcakes to raise money for like prisoners and stuff. So I was like, and I guess, and this is a long time ago. So I was like, make sure you get some vegan cupcakes for the, you know, and then, you know, just, and then we go into a song. So my dad always talks about like, oh, get your cupcakes. So yeah, they've been to a lot of stuff for sure, and my brother too. So yeah, and like my brother and I have played shows like as my dad's backup band too.
Oh, cool.
At a garden on Father's Day, my brother's on drums and I'm on bass. My dad's just like the happiest man on earth.
Are you what sorts of songs are you playing? Are you doing like covers? Are you playing some of his or?
He has a lot of originals, but covers are like, you know, the band, Bob Dylan, that kind of stuff. So,
gotcha.
Yeah. And to some of it, when I was learning the bass, I was just playing it more punk. And he was like, okay, don't play it like that. I just would like getting the tabs online and just like, he's like, okay, let's mess with this a little bit. You're getting carried away.
Maybe a quick side note here with covers. You just recently did a Prince cover set with Anthony from Ceremony. That's so sick.
Yeah, my friend, my good buddy. That was wild. I mean, Anthony is the biggest Prince fan that I mean, everybody loves Prince, right? And everyone knows someone who's like a huge fan. He's got to be the biggest fan. He could maybe win like a contest. Like he is the biggest fucking Prince fan. And I've known him forever. We've been friends for probably close to 20 years. And we saw Prince together in 2011.
Whoa. Oh my gosh.
And he'd been working on this band for a while. And then like 2 weeks before, I was actually at Aftershock with the Armed. And he texted me like, I might need your help with this. And I was just like, oh, okay. Like, it's like, can you be in LA in 2 weeks and like learn all these Prince songs? And I was like, I mean, I'm down. I don't like saying no to shit. So I shouldn't put that out in the world. I'm getting better at it.
You're on this podcast.
I know, that's
so
true. That's true. I said no to a few things recently and I was like, yeah, you did it. But then I didn't hear from him. And then a week before he was like, okay, here's the deal. And I was just like, fuck it. So it was like, all I did was like come home from, if I wasn't at work or asleep, I was like playing Prince songs. So, but it was so worth it. I mean, because too, my husband came with me and we just like made a weekend out of it. And like the show was great, but just the rehearsal, I think because there was 7 of us, I think 7 or 8 people in the band. And we'd all been practicing on our own, right? And then we're all in the room for the first time and like hearing it come together. And by the second run through, we were just like, holy shit, we have something really, really special here. Like just the rehearsal was like amazing. And we had it down by the second time. I think we did it 4 or 5 more times because I think we were just like, let's do it again. It was like a half an hour music. We were just like, let's do it again. And we'd stop, we'd be like, all right, we got it. Let's do it again. Like we just, we were there for so long. And then finally I was just like, Anthony, I drove down from Oakland today. I was like, I have to go home now. Like I have to go to bed now. But it was so worth it. And it was just like really fun. So, and all the other bands at this Halloween cover show were hardcore bands. And so we were all like, oh my God, is like, we're between like Floor Punch and Metallica, obviously not a hardcore band, but you know, just heavy bands. We're like, is anyone gonna give a shit? And it's like, oh, yeah, again, everyone loves Prince, and I think it was probably a nice, fun dance break in between.
It's probably like most of people's like playlists anyway, just go from Prince to like a Misfits, a couple Misfits tracks or something like that.
Yeah,
And,
I hope so. If you're listening and you don't do that, maybe it's time.
How in depth did you go? Like, was it almost like a retrospect or was it like a select?
Yeah, I'd have to pull it up, but there was two medleys of a bunch of songs, and then we opened with Purple Rain, which I thought was cool, and then with all of Purple Rain, and then we ended with Nothing Compares to You. And the hardest, and kind of the reason he brought me on was to play bass on Diamonds and Pearls. I don't know if wow, the bass on that it's probably the hardest thing I'll ever play. And I only had a week, but even if I had a year, I don't know if I could do it. If anyone is listening and needs a fucking challenge, Diamonds and Pearls by Prince. It's so fast. It's like da, 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 da. I'm not exaggerating. That's like that's half of the bridge. Like, ba, 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 da, 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 ba, 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 ba. It's like, oh my God. So I had to play a simpler version. I texted Anthony a few days before and I was like, I'm playing a simpler, I'm like cutting out half the notes. And he just like sent me a video of what you're playing. I was like, I'm gonna play this. He's like, yeah, that's fine. Instead of like ba 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 ba, I was like ba 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 ba. Because I'm like, there's no way. And when we did it and nailed it, I was like, yeah. But then that and the medley went right into When You Were Mine, and that was really fun. Like ba ba da da ba ba ba. Like that was more kind of bouncy and fun, and it was like such a relief to in the medley to be like, you did it, okay. And the rest I did like fucking tambourine. Not me watching it like YouTube videos in the morning of be like, what's the best way to play a tambourine? Because sure you like play it, but not in front of hundreds of people. And then like a little keyboard, and then the most fun was I had like a drum pad with the
oh, cool.
Yeah, and that's fun too for bass, just kind of dancing and hitting it. So it was super fun. That was really nice of Anthony to have me. So yeah, that was a busy month because a couple of weeks before that, like not only did King in a 5-week period, King Woman had 2 shows, one in Chicago, which I think is Out Y'all's Way, and then one at Great American Music Hall in SF. And the Armed played Aftershock, which was a whole, oh my God, don't get me started on that. We'll be here all night. That was hilarious. That was the best day ever. And then, and then I did the Prince cover set. It was just like every week. And then also with some friends, we did a Minor Threat cover set too. So that's another and we had done it years before, actually for Anthony's birthday, like a decade before twice, but relearning that. And two, it was nice for learning it 10 years later, like, oh, I've gotten a lot better at bass. But yeah, that was a busy 5 weeks. My God.
The Minor Threat songs are a little more straightforward on bass than Prince songs.
Yes, definitely. They're fast and some of them have tricky parts, but it's like, it wasn't like, oh my God, am I going to be able to do this? It was just like, yeah, I can do it. Or like, our arms tired.
What do you think, I feel like the best way to, outside of listening to somebody's records, to get to know their catalog, is actually actively like learning it on an instrument. Was there anything that really stuck out to you, maybe that you didn't notice before about Prince, or like maybe the songs?
Yeah, I mean, just how good at bass he was.
Yeah.
I definitely went back and was like, let me find videos of him playing this on bass, and I did, and I was like, damn, he was such a talent and played so many things. So yeah, just kind of not realizing how intricate every instrument is, and how layered it is, and how everything is top notch. Every part of it is the best of the best.
So kind of circling back a little bit, I think we kind of maybe touch on it a little bit, but Punch, first band you ever did, was that
Yeah.
was like the first thing?
That was my first band.
Yeah. And this all high school people, or?
No, well, I started with my friend Keith, who also did tour, so kind of overlapped with Punch. And when I met him, actually I ran into him last night. That was really nice. I don't see him enough. He was doing this band Doppelganger. And I saw them play at just a show I went, and then we ended up meeting through MySpace. Again, this was 20 years ago. And then I would go see Doppelganger play, and then he started this band Before After, and I'd always I've been going to shows since high school, but I just didn't play an instrument. I was like, I'm not going to be in a band, whatever. And then before or after recorded, and I went with them and did some gang vocals, and it like, I was like, oh shit, because I'd sung along at shows, you know, but it was like doing the recording part and like enjoying it and being like, oh wow. So then after when they were starting what would become Punch, I was just like, can I try out? I think there was like 5 of us that tried out. And at first it was me and our other friend, Chelsea. She kind of ended up just being our roadie, but they were both like, you're both great. And then we were like, I don't know if she did bands after that, but I don't know if she did before. So I think we were both like doing it for the first time. And we were like, not only do I not know how to do this, we don't know how to do this together.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, I just went to practice and started yelling, and that was what came out. And they were just like, it's you. And I was like, great. So yeah, that I keep saying it because I've been doing a lot of like guest stuff lately, and it's just funny because I'm hearing myself back and I'm like, but people like it, and I'm like, I don't know why I can do this, but I can't. I don't know. So
how did you like find out what you wanted to write about? Like when you started in Punch, how did it come to you? Like these are the lyrics I want to make.
I know, because I never like really wrote any stuff. I guess I would journal sometimes, but I've never been like a dedicated journal. But I think just listening to hardcore, like I knew that it needed to be, or I wanted some, you know, bit of politicalness to it, you know. And then so it's either like political stuff I cared about, like, you know, veganism or other things, and or like personal, just like kind of process, like a way to process stuff. So yeah, that kind of how it became, and it was like very cathartic, you know.
Definitely. I mean, you know, maybe to just punish you a little bit, I've certainly told you, but I mean, I think what draws me to Punch and your lyrics specifically is just like the emotion and just like the relatability behind them. You know, what do you look for? Was there like, you know, what draws you to punk music? Is it the same kind of feeling? Are there people that you maybe kind of like, oh, I kind of want to replicate what so-and-so's doing? Or I don't know. I just, yeah, I love turning the EP on. It's some of my like favorite 10 minutes of music ever. And it just gets me fired up. So who fires you up, I guess?
Who fires me up? I mean, like a show that I always reference that I went to like pretty soon before meeting Keith and kind of going down that road was a show that was Gather and Look Back and Laugh. And like I've been going to shows for so long and not seeing that many women in bands, and seeing both Tobiah and Eva, who I would like later become friends with, which is a really cool thing about hardcore too, is that like I don't think you should really put people up on a pedestal too much. And this is like, you know, everyone like knows each other and stuff. So that show really inspired me. That was like, I think it'll be 21 years in May. And yeah, I think just like the raw emotion, and like I said, like the catharsis. And I think like getting into punk and hardcore, I feel like liberated me in a way of like, I don't know. It helped me learn that like, even as a shy person, like I didn't need to ask like anybody's permission to be in any space. Yeah. So I just think just a different way to be, and just the catharsis of it and all that stuff. So
not too many solid, you know, one word band names. And I feel like there were probably definitely some meathead hardcore dudes who were probably like kicking themselves in the ass, like Punch, it was right there in front of us. Who
I know, I remember the moment. Is that what you're gonna ask?
I was gonna ask,
yeah, came about. Yeah. So Daniel, not Dan Africa, but Daniel, so the original lineup was me, Keith, and then the 3 Rosenbaum guys, Freddie on drums, Daniel on bass, and Jeff on guitar. And we were playing like getting pumped, and the ceiling of our practice space was kind of low, and Daniel, who's not even very tall, was just like, oh, he's like, this music makes me want to punch the ceiling. He's like, oh, and we were like, oh, what if we need the band Punch? That's so stupid. Yeah, oh, Punch, what a dumb name. And then we came back the next week, and we were all like, we're naming the band Punch, right? Yeah, I do think naming a band is hard. Like, and I'm just like, we're running out when people are like, oh, it's a dumb band name. I'm like, that's okay. Like, it's hard to name a band. Like, let the music speak for itself, as long as it's not like outwardly offensive or something. And then if I hear a good band name now, I'm like, good for you.
Yeah.
Congratulations. You really did it. I thought we ran out. You found one. So
Well, you mentioned Daniel, who I definitely confused getting into the liner notes.
Yeah, it's confused. We had two Brians on bass. It's just, yeah.
So he was Daniel in the band for, I think you said maybe less than a year.
Yeah, like less than a year. He was on that first tour, and then by the next summer, he had left, and we had Dan Africa, and I still run into Daniel, and was like so excited to see him. He lives in LA, but he was just like kind of busy with other stuff, and it just wasn't a priority and stuff. And then later, Freddie left to pursue other music stuff. I still run into him too. But yeah, so that's when we got Dan Africa, and yeah, when Daniel left. So
I think one of the biggest things that really, caught my eye when we were like going through the band's history and the EP was like how quickly things started to move. I feel like, I mean,
yeah,
going on your first tour a year in, I think I read you went to Japan maybe like in 2009. So like that seems, I've never been on tour personally, but that seems like pretty quick.
Yeah, that came about because the people that Uchu and other people, the people in Japan that booked that tour, their band, like Dan Africa, had done them a huge favor in the States, like on a tour years prior, and they just kind of owed him. And we happened to be lucky enough to be the band that he cashed that favor in on. But then, and so we had done like probably two US summer tours, and then we went to Japan in 2009. And then I think that made people take our band more seriously. And then, it just kind of like really got the ball rolling and stuff. And two, I joke with, it's kind of not a joke that with music that aggressive, like, it's like, you just have to stay a band. And, like, it just like takes a while. It's like, wow, why did Punch get to do so much stuff? I'm like, I don't know, because we were a thrash band that existed for 9 years. Like, So I think, but yeah, thanks to luckily to Dan and his connections, that's how that happened. But the touring, I think maybe just because like, Keith had been touring, we just started doing it, So, and I feel like I was bad at it at first, but now I'm really good at it. I'm a road dog, so. And it's truly prepared me for my career as a barber, because my dog's here now, by the way. There he is.
Oh.
He's going to behave better than my cat. Well, because instead of being in like a small van, like, talking shit with a bunch of dudes, I'm just like in a small room. And like, it's still like, oh, the love language is still shit talking.
Yeah.
So, and like, just like teasing each other, but in like a not a mean way. So, no, I love it. I love tour. I love the inside jokes. I love all like the time together. And it's just like, special. I mean, I mean, the longest I was out with Punch was like 10 weeks one time, and you just kind of get in a groove, and I like get good at it. But now it's just like, weekend here, weekend there. A year ago, I did like 2 weeks with the Armed and then a week with King Woman, like back to back, which was a bad idea. But getting to be out on the road for 3 weeks was so awesome. I loved it. I just like felt like myself, but just like being grown-ups and having responsibilities and stuff. It's just different touring at 41 than at, 25. So,
mentioned like going to shows at Gilman, and then you're like, all right, now I'm actually playing here. I think we mentioned like you were going on tour with bands like Negative Approach. Were there any like, not to put people on a pedestal, but I'm sure it was kind of, there's people you probably met.
It's validating for sure. It's great. It's awesome. And yeah, our first show was at Gilman. Punch's first show was at Gilman. So that felt really full circle and awesome. And yeah, that was fun. We did that Negative Approach tour in like the summer of 2012. And they were funny guys and stuff. Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, just that like, again, like people in bands that I looked up to became my friends, or just like, I feel like most of my friends are from touring in music, and it's just like I'm very grateful for that. Of like, how else would I'm like, how do regular people just like meet people?
Right.
Like just your work, or just, I don't know, because people are, you hear too like, oh, making friends as an adult is so hard, but I'm like, well, for me, but I'm like, oh yeah, because I'm just always out doing stuff.
So we did our episode. We covered Nothing Lasts at length, and
yeah, that was awesome.
Oh, thank Thank you for listening to me, by the way. I appreciate that.
Of course.
But you know, we gathered the information that we could, so we, you know, can only interpret it a certain way.
I mean, you guys had stuff I forgot. No, that's why I loved it. I was like, it was a very thorough timeline of the band. And two, I always like, because I know we did our demo at Jeff's parents' garage, but then the first EP, I always like forget where we recorded because everything was with Jack after that. And you guys said it, I was like, that's right. Like, so you guys definitely knew a lot of stuff, which was awesome. I think the only, again, I have my notes here. Oh, yeah, there was, I went back. Okay, for those listening, I listened to, you guys tagged me, so I listened to it. And again, you know, Punch has been broken up for over 10 years now. You know, it was 10 years in September. So the fact that people still care about it, like, means a lot to me. So to hear you guys talk about it was really cool. And we were saying before we started recording of like, I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts and you get that parasocial relationship and you want to like talk to the podcasters. And I was like, oh, this time I can because they're talking about me. Right. So I just started DMing you guys like it's like I was like live tweeting the fucking episode to you of like, actually, so one was you were saying in the tracking notes some of the guitar was recorded in Germany. That's because Dan moved there. He met his wife. Well, I guess they were friends first, his wife Britta. And then they started a relationship and he moved there to be with her. So,
and this is Dan Africa,
like 14.
Right?
Dan, I got it. Yeah, Dan Africa.
Because I screwed up. I was like, that's the same
No, there's
guy.
two. Again, there's two Dans, there's two Brians. So he moved there, I think in 2010 or 11. So that's that. And then the original lineup was the other Daniel. So it was just like Rosenbaum's plus Keith, and then they were trying out singers. And I don't remember how Keith got. I think Rosenbaum's and Doppelganger would play together and stuff. So
I'm assuming just, you know, based off of what you guys recorded at the Atomic Garden, I would assume, and then Dan just sent over whatever he had in Germany.
I think so. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I don't know if he came out or if he did additional stuff, but I think there were times he was there in person since he moved, but I think for that one, I think it was remote. So and then it's like, oh, once he moved to Germany, if we tour in Germany, it's like he's already there, or if like the States, we'd fly him out and stuff. So
Gotcha. Do you remember much about? I know at least one like kind of origin of, you know, the universe doesn't know you exist comes from like a friend of yours who maybe just. Oh
yeah, I was at dinner and he said, world doesn't. I think he said the universe doesn't know you exist. So, and it wasn't even like very good. Like I haven't seen him in forever. You know, I don't even know if he knows that, but that was useful. So that came from him. Yeah.
Do you remember much about writing? I mean, I know it's like, again, like 9-10 minutes worth of music, but and also some years behind it, but I don't know. Do you remember much about those recording sessions or writing some of those songs? Like, I don't know, Time Apart or Four Letters, The Chase. I don't know. Wow.
I should have revisited the record. Yeah. Sorry, and I did when you guys were talking about it. I remember going back. Because especially when it's my vocals, like, you know, it's harsh to everyone, but it's very harsh to me to hear it. So I don't like sit around and listen to it. But I'm going to pull it up because I'm going to like start talking about a song and then you guys are going to be like, that's on a different record. And I'm like, I'm going to get stuff. That's why I was like, wow, you guys got so much right that I forgot. But yeah, I mean, I always was behind on writing lyrics. Oh my God. I would always show up to every recording. Thank God I'm friends with Jack because he has just seen me like at my most stressed out. Like I've probably like cried there. I've just been like, okay, so Do It Yourself is what we're talking. Oh no, Nothing Lasts, or we're talking about Nothing Lasts, not They Don't Have to Believe, right? Okay.
That EP.
Okay. I get those two confused in my head. I was just in I was going to talk about Do It Yourself when I was just in Detroit in December to record with The Armed, and we played a show like a few months before because it's like this show where they have a bunch of bands and like short sets and it's just like chaos, like they crowd surfed a Christmas tree with lights on it, like that's the vibe of the show. And like 3 months before, he's just like, "Can we cover a Punch song or no?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's hilarious." So we did it, and it was fun.
I
But
saw that video
yeah,
and it's like, a minute and a half, but it's like explosive. Like it just seemed like everybody, yeah.
yeah, people were into it, and it's cool because like I know Tony really likes punching too. Ken, his cousin, and Kenny, the bass player too, and to Max, who sometimes plays guitar, he was playing guitar for that, and I knew he really liked it, and so he was like very nervous, like overly nervous. Like he's like, "We played too slow at rehearsal. We played too slow at rehearsal." I was like, "It's fine." I was like, "It was done great," and I was like, "It's a cover, just because I'm here, like it's still a cover." So I think that they really took it very seriously. Meanwhile, me, I'm like, "Yeah, that's funny. Like it's fucking funny to play this." But I just try not to take myself too seriously. But gosh, I don't know if I can remember a lot of the writing. Yeah, 2011. So that means, yeah, we would have recorded it in 2010. So 15 years ago, my God. But I just know I probably went into the studio with like two more lyrics needed to get written. But sometimes those would end up being my favorite songs, the ones I kind of did in crunch time. Um, but yeah, it's fun. I like recording with Jack. Like, we met because when Dan Africa joined the band, he was living with Jack. So that's when I met him. So probably like 2008 is when I met Jack. And then Kamadri took Punch to Europe with them in 2010. So that's when I feel like we really like bonded and learned that we both love like dumb jokes and stuff. So he sends me memes of like puns all the time. That's like, I mean, I see Jack in real life, but our online communication is mostly like bad puns. The worse, the better.
Dad jokes.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's nice. I'm like, and his longtime partner is my best friend. So it's nice to be somewhere I'm just very comfortable at Jack's. And so, when I'm yelling and writing music and it's like, okay, this is a safe place to do that. So.
How did you get into bass going into Super Unison?
Oh yeah. So, yeah, I never played an instrument. I tried guitar in high school, just didn't click. And then it was actually, I think in 2009 when Punch went to Australia, and we were young and we'd never been to Australia, and we were all in college and stuff at the time. So we booked it, I think, over our winter break, and we booked it. I think we just booked our plane tickets without talking to our friend TJ, who was booking the tour. And we're just like, "Okay, we got our plane tickets for 2 weeks." And they were like, "There's only like 5 fucking cities here." Like, and we just didn't realize it's like a big country, but the population is spread is just so different. So when we were over there, we had a lot of downtime. And so I just started like picking up BK, Brian number one's bass, and kind of messing with it. And I think starting with like Misfits and Ramones, kind of simple stuff. And then and then one time, I'm going to misremember this song right now. This is what happens when I don't have my notes. There was a show we played in Seattle that I played bass and Brian did. I think it was Carry On. Yeah. And he did the vocals. And like after, we were both like, like we were like, it was one of those things that in theory and like practice, you're like, this is gonna be sick. And then afterwards, we're like, all right, let's stay in our lanes. But yeah, not kind of out of boredom. And then also it became a like to take myself more seriously, because even though I was like touring all over the world and meeting people and like recording, I was like, didn't think I was a musician because I was just yelling. So I wanted to like pick up an instrument, and that just like clicked with me so much more than guitar had. So then, yeah, Super Unison. So I was like playing bass, and then after Punch broke up, Kevin reached out to me, Kevin from Super Unison, and like sent me the demos. And I was like floored. I was like, oh my God, this is like what I want to do next. And he was asking me to do vocals, and I was like, I don't really want to do vocals anymore. And he's like, I'm like, can I play bass? And he's like, can you do both? And I was just like, I'll learn. So literally like leading up to our first show, I never had done it together. I just got like the muscle memory really down on both, and then kind of learned to combine it. Cause I was like, I don't really just want to be a vocalist anymore. And King Woman is great because I'm just playing bass, and it's like really helped me get a lot better and everything. So that's been good. Cause yeah, I've been playing for like 12 years, maybe something like that.
Do you have any tips to learn how to do both at the same time? Or was it just like, just through repetition, just like, you gotta just do both at the same?
Yeah, I think the two things that I did was one, just like practice them separately so much that you're not thinking about it. Like the bass, I'm just like, oh, like repetition, repetition. So I'm not thinking about it. And then also like when you first start, it's almost like the word, like I'm changing on this word and I'm changing on that word and like kind of like mapping it out a little bit. But yeah, so, but I think too, it's just like, I think, um, I could get better at bass now that I'm just concentrating on just that. Like I would do both again for sure, but it has been nice to just like focus on that. And two, like I love in King Woman like setting up in the back right next to Joey, our drummer, and just like locking in with him. And it's almost like he's the only person in the room. Like I don't even have a monitor. I'm like, all I need is Joey. And that's really fun. And I was like, kind of like, oh, with Super Unison, I couldn't do that. Like I was in the front and I was facing the crowd and stuff. And I'm like, it's so much better. So I've been enjoying that a lot. And two, just like getting to tour and not like I always had to worry about losing my voice and stuff. And now I'm like, if I'm touring with King Woman, it doesn't matter. So that's been nice.
Maybe I got like the timeline kind of mixed up here, but you played bass in another project, right? No Secrets?
Mhm.
Was that yours? So did that overlap with Punch as well, or?
I don't remember. I think a little bit. Yeah, I think it did overlap. Yeah.
Okay.
That was like a short-lived project, but that's actually how I ended like I'm still really close with the drummer Matt Cotty, and I just did like some guest vocals for his band Build Us Airplanes and stuff.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Super
yeah,
cool.
that was like my first bass playing, and I learned a lot doing that band for sure.
Yeah, because it seemed like, I mean, I think when I listened to it, it was like, I think you had like done some like backing vocals maybe, but it seemed more or less like you were gonna dive kind of straight into playing bass with that one.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't really write any, I don't talk about that project a lot because it doesn't feel like my project, but it
Gotcha.
feels more like how I kind of like learned to play bass.
Okay, I gotcha. Now, on the topic of Super Unison, it seemed like you've worked with Jack like, throughout your entire career.
Yeah.
But was this at the first point where you kind of shifted? And I mean, I know Jack mastered Stella.
Yeah.
But Steve Albini, you recorded. Was that like the first time working with someone else aside from Jack?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, that first Punch like tape 7-inch, it was with someone else and demos and stuff. But yeah, like I just like recording with Jack was comfortable. Again, like a lot of self-conscious stuff about like not feeling like a musician, and just like recording hardcore vocals can be so raw and kind of embarrassing and stuff, so it was just like nice to do it with someone I knew and like had that comfortability with. But then it was like Kevin's like dream. He's like, I want to record with Steve Albini, and I have had a I still know. Yeah. Trey from Death Wish, who I've worked with a lot, and was just kind of like, this is what we want to do. And he like helped make it happen. And it was great. I'm so glad we did it and got out of my comfort zone and stuff. And like, especially now that he's gone, I'm just like so grateful to have that week with him because he was a really nice guy. And it was special. Like I remember when we were on the last day, like listening back to, and I'm just crying because I was like so proud of like what we made. And yeah, I was actually, was it yesterday at work? Someone was getting a haircut from one of my coworkers, and as he was leaving, he was like, "Are you Megan from Super Unison?" And like, of course, all my coworkers are just love that. They're like, "Megan, you're turning red." I was like, but I mean, I think people mostly know me from Punch, but I'm like so proud of Super Unison. So like, it means a lot to me. I mean, I love when people compliment Punch, but I don't know. I just feel like I felt a lot more involved with like that band in more ways because I guess I had my toe in different areas of it, playing bass and singing and more art direction and stuff than I did in Punch. And so I just art direction again. No, that's just like ideas. That's way too serious. Ooh, art direction. No, but just like the art and ideas and kind of the I feel like that is more me. And if I have probably almost time soon to start a new band, like I would go more in the post-hardcore direction for sure. Like that's more like what I I saw that just more, it's time. My like very supportive coworker and friend Shane, I'm wearing his shirt too, almost avoid like a while ago, like just noticing me like waiting for things to happen with King Woman and the Armed and kind of like, I hope I get to do this, I hope we get to do that. He was just like, I think you have to start your own band. And I was like, he's like, because you're always kind of like waiting, and I'm like, I know you're right, but it's also so much more work. Like right now I was like, I don't have to do anything, I just like show up when they tell me, I just go where they tell me to go. It's great, just like, here, do this. I'm like, great. So we'll see, but anyway, it would be more in that like post-hardcore kind of direction.
Albini always talked about how he liked to make it feel natural for bands when he recorded them. So when y'all recorded, was it like, I guess when you were like doing the bass part, was it kind of like a band rehearsal? Did it feel like that? Or was it like, I have to nail this because we're recording right now, like super tense?
It wasn't tense at all. Yeah. We went into that record more prepared than we'd ever been prepared. Like, I think we went to Chicago. I only had 1 or 2 songs with no lyrics as opposed to like the half that I would normally do for Punch. I bought a second bass to have one at the practice space and one here. Like we demoed more than we had for earlier stuff. We like demoed and tweaked because we were just like taking it very seriously, So I think we went into that super prepared. And then Kevin was able to, add stuff and improvise on the go. But yeah, I think, he had the reputation of not being a producer, and he really was like, you don't ask him like, do you think we should do this or that? He's just like, it's your band, he's not like there to steer you. But I also think like he really gave what he got, like the first day or two, I remember him being kind of businesslike and just like very professional. And then like as time went on and he just saw that we were like goofy and like fun love, then he started opening up and telling us stories and just like being really sweet. And so like, I think he made us very comfortable. So
at what point does Super Unison kind of take a back seat, or do you guys kind of like go your separate ways? It seemed like there was a little bit of a gap.
We were a band for, I know, actually that was the other thing that I was definitely the most talking to the podcast, as if you guys could hear me when like,
oh no.
And then she has a little bit of a gap from like, and I'm like, you mean COVID?
Well, yeah.
Because Super Unison.
Yeah, what happened? Sure.
2020, she wasn't really making any music.
Huh.
Like lazy. No. We played our last show at Hoko Fest in Tucson. I love that fest. I think that fest is over too. The best time. In September 2019.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
I feel like nothing bad happened. I'm still friends with those guys, and it was really sweet. Oh, I could show you guys when we're done recording and stuff. But after the band broke up, like Kevin, there was 3 notes like in Steve Albini's handwritings, like the tape notes, and he had them framed and given one to each of us, like after the band ended. Yeah. But it just felt like the band like did what it was. Like we had just kind of run its course. And again, that record, it was just like, all right, well, we're done here. But so yeah, we played our last show in September 2020 or September 2019. And then, yeah, I think I was just maybe needing a break or just, and then of course, or just kind of living my life. And then COVID happened. And then in like 2021, like in spring, I got like a voice note from Chris. I was on a walk with my dog, and then Chris was just like, hey, because again, we've been friends and we had toured together and stuff, and we would just like get lunch and stuff. But I would just walk. I was like, Chris, left me a voice note. And then halfway through, she's like, just sing if you want to play bass in King Woman. And then I turned around and just started running home. I just started running. And I was like, Daddy, oh my God, like just like probably picked up my dog and just like football ran him home. So
the dog's like trailing on the leash behind you, like arms flailing in the air.
Yeah, it was just so unexpected to me. And again, I think I have self-doubt with like my bass stuff, and I was just kind of like, do you think I'm good enough? And she's like, dude, you sang and played, and like those bass parts weren't simple, like you can do it. And again, because she just believes in me and stuff. So
that looked like a very annoyed face.
I'm annoyed with myself. I know, annoyed with myself. But like, I'm like, oh, she believes. I was realizing like because the part I didn't say was more than I believe in myself. So that was the eye roll of like, yeah, she believes in me. And so yeah, it was like totally unexpected. So yeah, that was just happened to be the next thing. And then I've been doing it since then. So it's been 4 years now.
Yeah. I was wondering because, you know, obviously you've been featured on a lot of different things over the, you know, past couple of years. And I'd wondered what came first. So would that have been after Celestial Blues, or when did that record?
Yeah, so I'm not on Celestial Blues. They recorded it with Jack. I think before COVID. If I had to guess, I think they probably recorded it in 2019, but I don't know. And it was just so they were a 4-piece for years, like created in the image of suffering as a 4-piece. Colin left, and then they recorded that record as a 3-piece. Pete recorded all the guitar, all the bass, and then obviously it was time to start shows. He can't do all that, so they added a second guitar player who's currently Wilson, and then myself on Pete was the bass player and he moved to guitar, and then I took over on bass. So that was intimidating too. It was like it's not like, oh, I'm replacing the bass player, he's gone. Like the bass player is like in the room with you. And it's like like this. Yeah. So
you talked about like how shy you were, like especially when Punch started. Do you think kind of after the end of Super Unison you were like kind of burnt out on being maybe the focus of the band, the person that like was doing vocals? And
totally. I'm just like, I don't want to yell anymore. I'm like old and tired, so that's part of it. And although obviously I started doing it with the arm and it's fun, but yeah, and just that is something I like. Again, besides being able to like get better bass and like really lock in with Joey and just like have that be fun, it's like I'm not the focal point anymore. It's not, you know, it's just like when we have shows, it's always like way more nerve-wracking for Chris because she's like, you know, in the front and is like bearing a lot of that, you know, responsibility. So it's nice for me to not be the focal point anymore, for sure. Yeah. It feels more natural to be in the back because she's always like, sit up in the front next to me. I'm like, in the little rhythm corner. I'm happy back here. So, yeah.
But you mentioned earlier that's how you got connected with the arm, was through Chris?
Well, no. Because I know you know, some of the other projects like Squid Pisser. This Squid Pisser and the arm that happened the exact same way. Is someone for Squid Pisser it was Tommy, and for the armed it was Tony, complaining, or not complaining, but just like saying, I wish we had someone that sounded like Meghan. But they happened in both instances to say it to someone who knows me.
Wonderful.
So for Tommy and Squid Piss are like my like best friend from high school and growing up. Mike is like his like surfing buddy, creative partner. Like they make stuff together, and so it's just like, yeah, like we have this. Him and Seth were like, we have that record. Every track, they didn't have a singer at the time. Now Tommy's the singer. Like they had a different front person for everyone, and this one they were like, we imagine Meghan from Punch, but we don't know her, and happened to say that in front of like literally someone I've known since I was 14 and like officiated his wedding. Like this is, you know, it's like he's family to me, you know. Yeah. And Michael was like, do you want her number? Like, and then same with the arms. You know, Kara has been doing the vocals for about 9-10 years, and she was unable, and they've had other people fill in and stuff, and she was unavailable for that tour last year. And I think Tony was saying, oh, we need someone I just wish we could find someone that sounds like Meghan, and happened to say to Derek, their front of house sound guy, Derek Coburn, who records and stuff. And he had just worked with Chris, so he didn't know me, but he was like, oh, well, Meghan's in King Woman. Tony's like, I didn't know that. It's like, yeah, let's reach out to Chris. And so I was at work, and I was like, why did Chris text me 14 times? Like, that's not completely out of the ordinary, but it was a little bit. And it was just like, the arm, let's take it. And sorry, arm. I was like, who? Like, I hadn't heard of them. But then I was just like, well, I'll talk to them. And I got on the phone with Tony for like an hour the next day. And we were just having so much fun. And I just like asked them a couple questions. And then like 3 weeks later, I got in a van for 10 days with 10 people I didn't know. And I was like, either it'll be like a week of my life that sucks, and I'll just be like, bye forever. Or as Chris predicted, you know, it was great. And we had some fun, and they're great people. So, and now we'll be on the next record and stuff. So.
And you're on is it like the EP? It's oh man, I just had it on top of my head. Everlasting Glaze, or Gaze, excuse me.
Yeah. No, Everlasting Glaze. It's about donuts. See, that's something Jack and I would laugh about. Anyway, yeah, Everlasting Gate. I think they had recorded that. I think that was like done, and then fucking Tony, he'll always just be like, "Hey, do this thing tomorrow," and I'm always like, "Oh," and just make it happen. And that was one where he's just like, "Hey, like, do this real quick." And I mean, he, to his credit, he mailed. I didn't have an interface anymore, and he mailed me an interface, and I just like recorded at home, literally on my iPad, GarageBand for iPad, and just like did it and sent it back, and that was on the record. But this time for the LP, I got to go to Detroit and like record with Derek and stuff. Yeah, like half of the record. So, and it too. I feel like with the kind of voice I do, it's like it's hard. Some days I just don't have it, you know? And like I was in the pocket. It felt good. I was like, again, let's keep going. I did like the 6 songs in 30 hours and just was like, let's, you know, and then played a show like the next day. So yeah, it was fun. I definitely didn't think I'd be doing like front person stuff again, but I don't know. I just do this shit for fun and friendship, and they're a lot of fun, and there's like a million of them. So it's a lot of friends. So a lot of new friends.
Did you have to write anything for the new Armed project, or like did they just hand you like a lyric sheet and were like,
yeah,
speak?
I didn't write any of the lyrics, but I did write some of the phrasing, which was fun, and I didn't realize how much I missed it. And one of the songs he was like, before, so it was like they reached out to me. I agreed to do the tour. I was learning all the songs. It was like all I listened to. It was like on my way to work before. It's just like I would just listen to the Arm, and like I would just go to cafes and write the lyrics over and over and over and over. And then during that period of learning stuff, he sent me a demo of something. He's like, "Tell me what you think about this chorus." And I was like, "Bro, like not right now. Like I can't. I have no room for any more Armed in my head. What are you saying?" And then on like the 3rd day of the tour, we were sitting next to each other in the van. He just looks at me. He's like, "Can I send you those demos now?" I was like, "Yeah, you can send me the fucking demos now." Like now I know I don't hate you guys. Like we're having fun. And so there was one, and pretty early on. I mean, I've never, just to watch the way they operate, and just like it's very impressive, like how far in advance, and like just every detail that they do is really cool. But he was like, there's like a bass breakdown, he's like, "I hear, you know, kind of like a bratty, kind of like super innocent voice, this," and that's all he said. And then I was home and like wrote different lyrics that were filler lyrics and wrote the thing and sent it to him. And then he was like, "I love it. We're going to make the part longer. And then he wrote the lyrics, and I actually love the lyrics. They're my favorite on the album, and then got to record it. So, and there was another part too, where it was like, there's a screaming part here. I don't know what it is. And I wrote again, filler lyrics. And then he wrote the lyrics. Now that's on the album. And so I hope I get to do that more. I think I would, you know, sometimes coming up with lyrics all the time is frustrating, but I do like writing like the phrasing or the melody and stuff like that. So someone like Tony, who has so many like lyrics coming out of his ass, it's kind of a perfect pairing of like, oh, I hear something here, and it's like, okay, great, I hear this. It's like, okay, great, and then here's some words and stuff. So,
you should be a producer, Megan. You should produce.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like write music. I mean, like in the room, like full disclosure, like Kevin wrote all like the bass parts in Super Unison. You know, like I've never like written music. I'm a punk bass player. Like I don't think I'm like a real bass player. I'm a fucking like punk tabs, you know, like show me what to play and I can play it kind of. You know, and same with King Woman, I'm playing all the stuff that Pete wrote. But so yeah, I've never written like music, but you know, in the room writing with like Punch or Super Innocent, it's like, I think you should do that again, or this, or wait, stop, or like, you know, that kind of little stuff. But no, I should not be a producer, but thank you. But I do like writing. I didn't realize how much I missed writing like vocal you know, because I love just listening to it and like just hearing something in there, you know. So I do enjoy that. So it was nice to get to do that. But I wrote some lyrics and stuff, but yeah, I don't know. I think I was much unhappier in my early mid-20s, so it was easier. So, I mean, there's a lot to be upset about. So I definitely think I could write some lyrics now, but yeah, I don't know.
You know, when a band like Gouge Away rings you up on the phone, how much wiggle room, or like how do you approach like a guest spot like something on Deep
Oh,
Sage?
that's a funny story, actually,
Oh, yeah.
because I've known Gouge Away for I think it's in my notes. Yeah, Gouge Away. Oh yeah, I met them at Fest in 2016, and Christina and I were both dressed like 11 from Stranger Things. We had the pink dress, like I had the shaved head and she had the blonde wig. Like that was our meeting at Fest, you know, and then we kind of kept in touch. And then Super Unison did a tour with Gouge Away on the West Coast like years ago. And actually that was a time where I was doing just we would bring guitars in sometimes and play as a four-piece again. And like my brother played guitar on that tour too. And he'd never play, I mean, he knows how to play guitar, but he'd never in public. That was his first time like playing shows. And like after the first night, like his friend loaned him some pedals and stuff. So we had, you know, he's a drummer. We had to learn about plugging things in. But anyway, so I just know Gouge Away forever. And then they were here recording that record with Jack. And I think I ran into them getting ice cream. Or Jack texted me, he's like, hey, such and such date, can you come over and do gang vocals? Like he asked me, and luckily I was free. So I went over and it was like me and Haley and Jasmine, who I've known forever. Actually, I'm having tea with her in the morning. We did the gang vocals, and then it was really fun. And so I was like, wow, that was too fast. You know, that was fast as done. And then Jack goes, okay, Megan, now it's time for your part. And I just look over at Christina and she's like, I'm like, we've been friends for like 8 years. Like whenever they're in town, they usually stay with me, but she's still like kind of shy of me. And I'm like, don't be shy of me. I'm a dork. So she like Jack asked me, and then I was like, okay, well, I was like, well, we need to boil some water. I was like, what are the lyrics? Like, what are we doing? So it was really cool that I got to do a part, and then I've done it with them live a few times, like when they've been in town. So that's been fun. Yeah.
I think I followed the band on Instagram, and they like their first show after they did the release of the album, she was like, help, I can't do this song live. Like the way the vocals are written, I can't do this by myself.
Really?
So can somebody? Yeah.
Well, I know I forget the name of the band that they toured with recently, but the woman from that band was doing the parts, and then Haley, who had done the gang vocals and has their own lyrics too on it, was doing both, I think. So yeah, it's great, and I'm so proud of them, and that record's really great, and they're just great. They're awesome, and but they were here in November, and we had the best day ever. We just they got in late, and we just had all day to kill, and it was just really fun. So
you have like another spot coming up with a band called Discourage, like a hardcore band?
Yeah. Discourage, I just recorded that like last week. I've known Richard and Izzy forever, and that was one of those things that he asked me, and I'd seen, I think if I hadn't seen them live, I would be a little more discerning, but I saw them live and it was fucking awesome. So I was just like, "What's Richard? I'm gonna do it." And then luckily when I heard, and he sent me the lyrics. I saw the lyrics before I heard the demo, like the music. But I was like, "Oh, great! It's like political and like it." I was like, "I'll do it," and it was super fun. So yeah, again, I've been saying yes to a lot. I have turned a couple down recently. It's just it just was getting to be too much. It's like when your band plays too many shows too. It's just like oversaturated. It's like I don't want people to get sick of me. So yeah, I'm trying to be a little more discerning and stuff like that too. So
we recently talked to Chris Callahan from Cursed and Sect, and he said his favorite instrument to play was bass. Do you think there's something about the bass that like vocalists just love more than like any other instrument?
Maybe because it's easier to play. Sorry. Sorry. I'm not making fun of Chris. I'm making fun of myself and vocalists for being dumb.
Meghan O'Neil calls Chris Callahan.
I've never even met the poor guy. No, I just, it was like a bass player screwing a light bulb joke. It was right there.
Sure, yeah.
Wow. No, because I've had people say like, oh, playing bass and singing at the same time is harder than playing guitar, but I'm like, not for me, because I can't play guitar, so that's really fucking hard for me. Yeah, I don't know, that's interesting. I don't know if that's just a coincidence, because there are more singers that play guitar. I think we're, maybe it's just a coincidence that we both like it. But yeah, I don't know. I just like the rhythm of it. I really like, and again, just getting locked in with the drummer and stuff. It's just more fun, I think it's just more fun. And two, like with the guitar, I mean, I have a couple pedals, but I feel like sometimes the guitarist is so like worried about their pedals and what they're doing. And the bass, you can just like a singer, like move around a little bit more and be a little more engaged in a way. So yeah, my dad after the Mexico show said I had good stage presence, and I was like, which was very nice. He's biased, but I was like, I don't know. I think like, being a singer first, it's like, you're not just at home, just playing, you gotta be aware of like where you are and stuff.
Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. With all the things you've done over the past year, you've guested on albums, you've played all these shows. I feel like we've kind of hinted at a few things, maybe a project down the line, maybe some new stuff with King Woman. Eventually.
Yeah, maybe this will help. We need a guitar player. Well, too, my husband has been learning to play bass over the last 2 years, but he's like super, super shy. But I was like, we should start something together. But now he's really excited about it. But I'm like, honey, we've got 2 bass players. Like, we don't, like, it's not that easy. Like, we're going to need some help. But
was it Dose? Was it, right? Is that Mike Watt and Kira? They had that project that was like 2 bass
players.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 2 basses.
Yeah.
Okay, great. But yeah, I mean, and there's a friend I've talked to about a little bit, floated an idea, but I don't know. Again, I'm in like a very fun, easy spot where I'm just like getting to do cool shit. And so the idea of like, and I obviously wouldn't be starting like from zero, but like starting over, I'm just kind of like, ugh. But if things calm down, I'm never going to not be in bands, that I know.
Is there anything else in 2025 or beyond, whether in life or music, that you'd want to accomplish?
Not really. Yeah.
That's cool.
I just
No,
keep
I like
playing
that.
shows and
Yeah.
hanging out, and I've accomplished way more than I ever thought I would. So I don't know. I remember that was something Keith and I used to joke around with Punch, like in the early days, was he won, I forget his 2 goals, where I think it was like record an LP and tour Europe. And then after that, we would joke, we're like, we need new goals, so maybe I need to dream a little bigger, but I'm pretty happy. Like, I don't want to tour full time. Like I like my life. And so I'm just lucky to do it here and there. So I'm in a nice little kind of in between, and I'll stay right here. It's nice.
I love that. So maybe before we end things, we typically end with some recommendations. Have you been listening to anything as of late? Anything heavy, old, new, whatever you.
I mean, I don't know that they're good recommendations, because they're not, earth shattering, or they're all pretty much like, you probably like, yeah, that makes sense. But I feel like the 3 records I've been listening to the most recently is I Got Heaven by Mannequin Pussy, Up on Gravity Hill by METZ. I love Light Your Way Home, and then I really like that new DIIV record too, Frog and Boiling Water.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So those have been the 3 on heavy rotation. And then I don't know, I've been in like a 9 Inch Nails phase for a year, but also forever. And I'm gonna go see them in August. I'm excited. And I like to dance, so I like, the pop girls too. So, Sabrina and Charlie XCX and SZA and stuff. So that's kind of my vibe, is either like dancing or like, if I like heavier music, I like a lot of like layers and a lot like going on. So that's like why something like DIIV or METZ is like, I really like, because there's so many layers and dynamic to it.
Were you a DJ by chance? Were you doing something was it Heart of Gold DJs? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I was a wedding DJ for like 9 years. That's same with like bass player, punk bass player, like DJ and wedding DJ is also an important function. Yeah, not in DJs are bad way, but just in like skill level and like what I did. It wasn't about like making my own music or like, melding songs perfectly. It was about like reading a room, which I thought the thing I was the best at was reading the room. And like into was I had all my own gear, so audio stuff, and then like, miking a ceremony, music up and down the aisle, cocktails over here. So it was also like a lot of audio stuff and like setting up different setups. And then dancing was like reading a room and And also like, you know, being able to talk to people and like get along with grandma and like the drunk bridesmaid who's being rude or whatever. So I definitely loved it for a long time, but I'm very, that was some things I said no to recently. Some friends and friends that I love have been asking me to DJ their weddings. And it was very, for 2 days, I was like, honey, I said no to people I care about. I'm really proud of myself. Because I was like, it would have been easier just to say yes. But I'm like, again, I'm happy with where I'm at in life. And it's just, yeah.
Is there like when someone hands in the request sheet, is there like a song on there that you notice you're like, this fucking song again? Like you just kind of.
I mean, God, yeah, just people get so pushy. And I wouldn't do the request sheet for that reason. Like people would be like, are you taking requests? I'd be like, kind of. I worked on a playlist with a couple. Like, what are you thinking? And sometimes it'd be really helpful. It'd be like, this was our favorite song in college. But sometimes I'll never forget. I had this really drunk woman, and this was like 10 years ago. She really wanted Let It Go by Frozen. And ironically, she wouldn't let it go. And she just like kept asking me, like, you gotta play Let It Go. And then to the point that she like brought a little flower girl over and pushed, she's like, tell her to on here. And the girl's like, let it go. And I'm like, don't use this child for your dumb agenda. Like, it's never gonna happen. So people will just get so stuck on a song. So it was really fun. I'm glad I did it, but it conflicted with touring a lot. And now, you know, because you book like 6 months to a year out. And actually one of the weddings a friend's wedding that I said no to, like right after I said no, now I'm playing a show at King Woman that same day. And it's like, yeah, this is why I can't do this anymore. And I sold all my gear and stuff. But of course they're all musicians, my friends that asked me, and they're like, we have a PA. And I'm just like, oh gosh. But yeah, it's a lot of work. When it's fun, it is the most fun. But when it was stressful, it was so stressful. Because again, I'm not a technology person, and you're relying on software and, you know, stuff. So yeah. And you're like in a fucking barn in Sonoma with no Wi-Fi. So yeah. So yeah, it was fun, but have happily moved on. So, but then my whole life was music, you know, it was awesome.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you have to see a therapist to like tell you to tell people no?
I mean, I have 2 people in my life who are really good with boundaries. So I feel like, I mean, I have a lot, but the 2 people that I'll run stuff by are like my husband and then my friend Shane too. He'll just be like, no. I'm like, okay.
That's the only reason I'm on this podcast is because I can't fucking tell people no.
Say no.
Hell yeah. And I knew that about you. Well,
yeah.
I want to thank you so much for saying yes to meeting with us. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
I was not under duress at all. I was happy to do it, of course. I being on podcasts is fun. And so thank you for having me.
Of course. Any upcoming shows that you can disclose? Maybe people can follow you for any barbering to hook you up, hit you up.
I'm plenty busy at work, so I won't share that.
Sure.
But shows, nothing. I don't think there's anything announced right now, but there are both King Woman and ARM shows in the works. For sure. So I'm not, oh my gosh, my friend, because the ARM just announced 2 shows and I'm not playing them because now it's like Kara does it sometimes, I'll do it sometimes, and sometimes both of us, which is our favorite because we're obsessed with each other. But we are, well, too, because I was so nervous when I first met her because it's a collective, like me doing the parts, I wasn't replacing her, but I was still worried that it would feel competitive. No, we just love each other. So but my friend, Wilson from King Woman texted me like, I'm going to Detroit in May to see you play. And I was like, I'm not playing that show, dog. But that show is fucking stacked. I don't wish I was like, I don't need to go to Detroit. Like, so like that will be like 2-3 times in a year. Like, but anyway, yeah, I'm not playing those, but there is some stuff later in the year that I will be playing. So. And some with both of us, which is the most unhinged version because we just like mess with each other.
I've seen a flyer where you may have I'm assuming had to pull double duty before or something. And I can't imagine. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, that was a total coincidence when King Woman and the Armed played in New York. I was on tour with the Armed. I think we were in North Carolina, and Tony just shows me on his phone like the lineup, and it was like, and I was like, wow. So I was like, I'm doing both sets, right? He's like, yeah. But I just came out for 5 songs at the end, and that was when I got to meet Kara, and we had so much fun like playing together. So it's kind of just like it doesn't always make sense to have both of us, but when we can, it's like it's really fun. So
Well, follow King Woman, follow The Armed. Definitely looking forward to new music in the future. Megan, thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you so much. Yeah. It was so nice to meet you both.
Yeah, you as well, of course. Riff Worship Pod places. Look, it's in the link. Doesn't matter. Anyway, for me, for Megan, for Swindle, you've been listening to Riff Worship. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.